Learning is something all artists have to do. We have to learn how to shade objects properly. We need to learn how to draw faces. Heck, we even needed to learn how to pick up a pencil in the first place. Every artist, whether a beginner or a professional, is constantly learning new things about this wonderful medium. Today, I want to explore the concept of learning when it comes to art, and what we can learn from learning how we learn from things. Hello, my name is Dylan, and today I want to show you this piece I made of the characters from Netflix's comedy drama. Well, because of YouTube's monetization, it's kind of hard to say that word, so let's just call it S-education. However, there's a catch. See, all the artworks and animations I have showcased on this channel up to this point have been done in Clip Studio Paint. I have had a close relationship with this program, starting to use it back in the middle of 2020, and never letting go of it since. Despite it being a program catered towards anime and manga artists, I have used Clip Studio Paint for illustrations, paintings, pixel art, and even animations by upgrading to the EX version. I am now extremely familiar with the interface of the program, the brush packs, and the tools it can offer. So why am I telling you all this? Well, for one, I think it's interesting to learn about the tools an artist uses. But two, I decided to ditch Clip Studio Paint. Okay, well, not entirely, but this time I will be drawing in Photoshop. But before we delve into that, let's talk a bit more about the show. If you want to skip straight to the process time-lapse, there are chapters in the timeline below. Okay, S-education is a show set in, rural England. It's really as rural as an extremely romanticized depiction gets. Netflix, this is what rural England looks like. Anyway, the show explores relationships that are platonic, romantic, intimate, and parental, with an overarching plot of main characters Otis and Maeve working an S clinic at their high school. A big highlight of the show is the characters. Especially in season 1 and 2, season 3 kind of fell off to be honest, characters interact with each other in ways that develop both parties at the same time. Take my favourite character, Adam. Adam is first presented as a bully to Otis's best friend, Eric, which shows the audience that Eric is low on the quote-unquote social food chain, and that Adam is kind of a dick. Adam is one of the first characters to go to the clinic, which shows his vulnerability, and also Otis's knack for therapy. Later, Adam has multiple tense situations with his father, aka the principal, showing the principal's overbearing nature and revealing to the audience Adam's motive for bullying Eric. In season 2, Adam ends up falling in love with Eric, further developing Adam's relationship with his own identity, and Eric's relationship with his queerness, and being out of the closet. Adam then starts developing friendships with Ola and Raheem, showing to the audience his growth in confidence, and Raheem and Ola's growth in forgiveness. Each character is able to develop themselves and the people that they interact with. Now, imagine this level of character development for like 7 more characters. That is what the show is about. The show has probably the best writing I've ever seen in a high school drama. It subverts almost all tropes in typical American media. The bully character becomes an allegory for self-identification and self-esteem. The gay best friend becomes an exploration of queer openness and its intersection with religion. The classic goth girl becomes an exploration of class and family and how they affect one's academic opportunities. And the stereotypical weird girl becomes a lesson in expectations one can put upon themselves, as well as how relationships are developed through a neurodivergent point of view. I am also in love with how this show treats different minorities, and how it's not afraid to talk about certain risque topics in an objective yet empathetic manner. Not to mention that the acting is great, the comedic timing is also on point, and the casting is just amazing. I can't get enough of Jim Howick as Colin, I need to see more, and the costuming is a stunning maximalist mess. But I think it's time now to talk about my process and how I tried to learn Photoshop for the very first time. So, The background that I used was a screenshot of a background from the show. I used the stamp tool to cover up the character in the shot. I then blurred the whole image to cover up any inconsistencies, and then I used the liquify tool to make a subtle fisheye effect. This fisheye effect was to just make the background feel a bit more dynamic, and it was also some practice for later when I had to use the liquify tool for the characters. Finally, I used a couple of adjustment layers to darken the image and lower the contrast a bit, so the characters would stand out more. This background is going to act as more of a suggestion rather than a full environment for the characters to be in. Instead, it's just going to inform me of what the colors and lighting I should use. The characters I chose to draw were Otis and Maeve, the two star-crossed lovers who started the S Clinic, Eric and Adam, aka the best relationship in the show, and Lily and Ola, the weird girl and Otis's ex/stepsister. Yeah, the show is weird. Each of them are well fleshed out and have completely different styles and personalities. I thought that each character would contrast each other in the artwork and be a good representation of the series as a whole. When coming up with a character cast sheet, a good idea is to add variability. Imagine how a character sheet would look if every character had the same pose, the same expression, and faced the same way, and had the same height and body type. Pretty boring, right? Instead, add some visual variety. Have characters interact with each other, draw them out in different poses, make one of them look puzzled and the other one look confident. Contrast characters against each other, such as putting a large character next to a small one, or a short one next to a tall one. Think about the composition as a whole, and make sure that one side isn't too full of large characters and the other one full of negative space, unless that's your goal. You can see here that Adam and Eric are exaggerated to be taller and smaller respectively, to contrast each other even more than they already do. Same with Ola and Lily. Lily is much taller than normal, and Ola is much smaller than normal. It's fun to push the proportions of real-life actors into more stylized versions of themselves, especially if they are playing exaggerated characters. As I went in with the line work, I deliberately used a very small brush, 3 pixels wide to be specific. This is because in my Brian David Gilbert piece, I felt like I used too big a brush. This caused some information to be lost. Like sometimes you couldn't tell where an eye stopped and the nose began, because it was all just in a sea of black. Not wanting the same problem to happen twice, I went in with a smaller brush and started to draw the characters. In hindsight, I should have used another sketch layer before going in with the line work. There simply wasn't enough information in my previous sketch layer to draw clothes over. You need a basic understanding of anatomy to accurately predict how cloth will fold, drape, and scrunch around the human body. Even if most of your sketch is going to be covered up by the clothes, it's much more beneficial to understand what you're drawing than to draw first and analyze later. One thing will lead to growth over the long term, and the other will lead to more mediocre drawings. So, why did I skip the sketch layer? Now, I know, I'm basically recommending you to do something that I'm not doing myself. Well, this might sound a bit like an excuse, but studying anatomy just wasn't my goal for this piece. It was to understand the program. If you were to create a finished illustration, then yes, put in the time. Perfect any weak points in your artwork. But I wouldn't consider this drawing a finished piece. This is a test run, a bite-sized version of my process of how I would create a drawing. And so to speed up this process, I decided to cut a few corners. This meant that some parts of my drawing would be lacking. But instead of focusing on the now, I'm focusing on the long term. Now I have a basic understanding of how adjustment layers work, brush settings, and the liquify tool. And now I can go into another drawing in Photoshop with a little more knowledge. Part of the learning process is figuring out what you need to learn in the first place. And right now, learning how anatomy works would have been redundant. I needed to learn the software. Even though I tried to streamline my process into a test run, that doesn't mean the process went smoothly. There were many difficulties I faced when drawing these characters. The right click is set to a button on my stylus. On Clip Studio Paint, this would pull up the eyedropper tool whenever using the brush, but for Photoshop, it would open up a brush settings window. Pressing this button had become muscle memory for me, so it was hard adjusting to the new setup and not crushing the momentum when I was drawing. I didn't have access to the same brushes as Clip Studio Paint, so that added some dissonance to the process. Whenever using the selection tool in Clip Studio Paint, a drop-down window would appear for features such as an inverted selection and free transform, but in Photoshop, you would have to manually right-click. In Photoshop, you have to convert layers to smart objects in order to use the liquify tool on them, so this added an extra step when trying to touch up proportions. All the icons and windows are in different places, like how the zoom is on the bottom of the toolbar instead of the top. These all may seem like small nitpicks, and I'm not dissing Adobe for the software. I have no opinion on which is better, Clip Studio Paint or Photoshop. They're just different. However, because of these differences, my tried and true process became less and less efficient, as I was taking time searching for specific tools and accidentally opening up windows I didn't need to. This isn't all doom and gloom though. This made me use shortcuts a lot more in my process, like Z for zoom, B for brush, and E for eraser, which I think will help me in the long run as I branch out to more softwares. I ended up using the brush tool for both my pencil brush and hard round brush, which I can see being a useful way to cut down time, since now all of the brushes I would need would be located in one place. So there are some upsides and some downsides. However, in order for me to be motivated to learn, I'm going to see these downsides as less of a negative thing and more of a hurdle. It's like Photoshop's interface is a puzzle, and over time I will get better and better at solving it. I can always adapt to a new interface. I can't just change core features to fit my idealized process, no matter how much customization I can do. Another thing to note is that there is no record time-lapse feature, which Clip Studio Paint has. So for this recording, I had to record the process in real time, which kinda sucks, but oh well. Despite this piece being a test run, I'm still proud of the outcome. Yes, there are some weak points, but the artwork did what it was supposed to do, give me a taste of all the features Photoshop had to offer. I really like how I drew Otis and Ola. Otis has a really good expression, and I like how I stylized Ola's facial anatomy. But there are some parts that I also think could be improved, like Adam, Eric, and Maeve. Adam had some disproportionately small legs. I probably pushed his proportions a bit too much. Eric, on the other hand, could have been stylized just a bit more. This makes both of them stand out from the rest of the group. And Maeve's expression could have been a lot more specific. She's just neutrally looking upwards. It is good to critique yourself, but only if you do it in the context of learning. Learning should be a positive feedback loop. Think about the improvement you are going to make instead of dwelling on the mistakes you have made in the past. Becoming a great artist takes growth, so don't beat yourself up. But becoming an artist also takes humility. You need to be aware of your faults and accept them. Only then can you work on improving them. That is why I am sharing this artwork with you. I could have easily done this in the background and have never shown you my faults. But seeing another artist work in a different light, I think will help others feel better about their faults. That's all I have for today. Remember that we are all at different points in the learning process, so be proud of where you are right now in your artistic journey. Thank you for watching, and click on another video of mine to learn more about illustration and animation. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel to see more. Bye!